Ah, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Thank you for joining me wherever you are, however you may be doing today. Thank you for joining me today. I'm continuing on with, this is, I believe, the second video in chapter 3. I ended talking about the reasons for the Puritans' founding of the New World. I'm going to continue on here very rapidly on to the Pilgrims here in chapter 3. I just want to remind you once again, and I know I ended it with a lot of with mentioning it like 3 times, but I just want to remind you, in case you didn't catch the last one or something, you definitely need to understand the reasons for the Puritans' existence. They believed that the Church of England was not holy enough. They wanted to establish a holy group. They wanted to be. They emphasized holy living. And their emphasis on holy living is what led them to establish, and what led them to the New World, and establish a new place that became the engine of our country, which became the engine of the world. This idea of holy living, this Puritan mindset, which we're going to talk more about elsewhere, is what drove our world to success. But it came from a desperation almost for holy living. All right. I'm going to continue on here to the Separatists were a group of Puritans who were the most extreme. They did not only want to purify the church; they just believed we had to break away from it completely. They eventually led to they fled from Holland in 1608. Or sorry, they fled to Holland in 1608, and eventually came to America. The reason they fled is they were persecuted people, as were the Puritans. And the reason they are persecuted is, and I'm going to read from the textbook here for a second. King James quickly perceived that if his subjects could defy him as their spiritual leader, they might one day defy him as their political leader, as in fact they would later defy and behead his son Charles I. This is a very important note, because often the political leader, the spiritual leader became the political leader, and the political leader became the spiritual leader in these times. The Separatists were in Holland, but after 12 years, they noticed there was a Dutchification of their children. And they didn't like this. They wanted their children to grow up as Englishmen, but yet Englishmen with their freedom to worship. And therefore, a group of them decided to come to the New World. They came on the ship Mayflower. Fewer than half of this entire party were Separatists. They brought along a number of others to a number of other individuals to for financial reasons mainly, to support the trip. It is noteworthy. You never hear about that other group of people. You hear about the Separatists coming over, then you hear about the Separatists there. But you never hear about, like, this other group of people leaving or causing problems. Why? Honestly, the answer is they converted. The Separatists converted them. These people were not Christian people, but living with these people who believed very strongly their beliefs, very rapidly became one group. And the Separatists, they intertwine. You will not find a lot of discussion in history about the Separatists and the gentlemen or the non-separatist groups in the New World. Later on, at first you hear about how they're different, but later on you won't hear much about that. And the reason is, most of them, I'm not saying every single one, but most of them converted to the ways of the Separatists and their religious beliefs. The Separatists, before they land, they drew up what's called the Mayflower Compact. It's not actually a written constitution, but it was an agreement to form a crude government and submit the will of the majority to what they agreed upon. This is the first document of its type ever signed here in the New World, and one of the first in world history. It's sort of similar maybe back to the Magna Carta, but this is more of the first idea of a representative government and a rule by the people. The compact was signed by 41 adult males, 11 of them with the exalted rank of minister, but not by the servants and the 2 seamen. This is notable, because they only believed that individuals with property or with something to lose were considered here. And this is a concept we'll address more later, but it's worth noting. Now, you may notice I said adult males. You will find that adult males is often the term is used. But whenever we talk about adult males only had the right to vote, what we're really saying was every family had one vote. The head of the household had a vote, which is a male in that time period. It's important, and I don't think I need to elaborate on this point, as everyone here has parents or brothers, sisters, or husbands and wives. I myself am engaged. Let me tell you, if I went to vote and my fiance disagreed with me very strenuously, there would be no peace if I voted against what she agreed with. So when we say who's voting, as we all know, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So it's important to remember that. We're going to continue on here, but it is important to remember that it was one vote per family generally, not just one vote per male. It wasn't necessarily against the wife's wishes. They were considered a family, one unit. And the Bible talks about the becoming one. That's how they viewed it. In the first winter of 1620 and 1621, after that winter, only 44 out of the 102 survived. At one time, only 7 were well enough to bury the dead. But at the end, after more than half of them dying, not one single separatist or of those gentlemen or people who came left and went back. They believed that God would make his children prosperous. Okay? One of them said, "It is not with us as with other men, whom small things can discourage." This is rather amazing. I'll tell you right now. If I'm in a group of people, we go establish a new colony in the middle of I don't know, the unpopulated wilderness of Pennsylvania. Let me tell you, half of you guys die, I ain't staying. I'm out of there. I'm coming back to a nice, normal, city life. All right. Just telling you right now. The beaver and the Bible were the only mainstays. One, the textbook says, one for the substance of the body, and the other for the substance of the soul. William Bradford was the leader of that community, and he wrote a very famous book, which tells us a lot about that. He's a person, a very devout individual who's very learned and a tremendous leader. Let's jump over here real quick. We're going to get to, I guess the next question here would be number 8. We're not quite there yet. There's a video, you're going to watch a little bit of video on the first Thanksgiving. It's about a 5-minute video. And here's the thing to note about that. Actually, that question will probably, a question about that will probably be in the questions. And maybe a little separate spot. When we talk about the Pilgrims and those, then Plymouth Rock and the Separatists, etc., it's important to remember that they tried something called collectivism. It didn't work. What they found was if everybody owned everything, not many people would work. Why? Why would I work as hard because I can count on Frank to work real hard and then I get just as much as him? This idea is common sense. If you work real hard and I work real lazy, and we both get the same amount of money at the end of the day, well, obviously, he's not going to work as hard. Frank's no longer going to work as hard as me. He's going to say, oh, if I can be lazy like Nick, I can get half as much money. Or I can get the same amount of money with half as much effort. And what happens is, very rapidly, the amount that you produce is less. Let's say that we're farmers, and Frank and Sam and Nick are all farmers, okay? Frank works 80 hours a week and produces 80 bales of hay, okay? Or not, let's say 80 bushels of corn, okay? Sam works 40 hours a week and produces 40 bushels of corn. And me, I work 20 hours a week and I produce 20 bushels of corn. Now, each of us eat every year at least 30 bushels of corn. We sell the rest, and we split the profits 3 ways, okay? At the end of the day, we're going to have 80 plus 40 plus 20. So that's 80 plus 40, 120 plus another 20, 140 bushels, right? We each eat 30, that leaves 90 bushels, right? Okay, so that means we sell that 50 bushels, okay, and we sell it for $50. So now we split those $50 three ways, okay. 50 divided by 3, you can do the math. It's somewhere around 17. Okay, so we each take home $17, and we had 30 bushels to eat. I did pretty well, didn't I? I worked 20 hours a week. I produced 20 bushels. I ate 30 bushels and got $17. I did real well, correct? Absolutely. I believe Sam worked 40 hours a week. Okay, ate 30 bushels, so he had 10 bushels left. But he got 17 bushels worth of money, $17 worth of money. So he made out pretty well, right? Absolutely. So, and of course we all know who's left. Frank produced 80 bushels, but only ate 30 and only got 17 back. So he had 47. So his production was 33 above that. Well, if we sit down and vote, Frank, Sam, and me, we're all going to vote. How much, whether we should do it on each work for themselves or we should all pool everything. What do you think I'm going to vote for? Why, I can work 20 hours a week. That's easier for me. I vote we all pool everything. Sam looks at it and says, well, Nick's getting a way better deal than me, but I get a little better deal if I vote that we all pool everything. So what do we have? You pool all your money. 2 out of 3 votes? Perfect. What do you think happens? Frank says, well, if that's how it's going to be, guess how many hours I'm working a week? It's not 80, it's 10. What happens? All of a sudden, your production drops, okay? Your production drops from 140 down to 60, 70 bushels. Oh, look at the difference. That's what happens with collectivism. It shows up in that is what happens with income redistribution, a progressive income tax, communism, socialism, social welfare programs. It encourages people not to work as hard. And we saw that in the very first American colony, okay, in New England. That happened at the very beginning. But fortunately, William Bradford saw it didn't work well, and he encouraged, and he changed the rules and gave everybody their own piece of land and had them work for their own. And that is, in a great degree, that is what saved the colony, and also what caused it such great problems at the beginning. And there's a little video on that, but I just wanted to lay out that point, is that it's a concept there. Now, I want to make very clear here, that may seem insensitive or uncaring. In the example given, if I only have one arm, I obviously couldn't produce 80 bushels worth of goods. If I'm sick, if I'm hurt, I obviously could not produce 80 bushels like as Frank did. My best might be 20 bushels. But you'll notice I said I worked 20 hours per week and produced 20 bushels. I didn't say I worked 80 hours per week and only produced 20 bushels. Okay? And so there is a difference there, and I want to make it very clear here. People who struggle economically or whatever, welfare programs, etc., that's not what I'm talking about for people who are struggling for reasons not their fault. I'm talking here about the idea of collectivism, not demeaning any persons. Okay? I just want to make that clear. I'm talking about facts of history, collectivism not working versus demeaning people. That is not what I'm saying here. I want to emphasize that here several times. In history, sometimes it's very easy for myself and other historians, economists, I study religious economics, to talk about people as items of human capital. We use terms like human capital. But we need to emphasize people are humans. They're not just items on a checklist. Okay? We're going to continue on here on to John Winthrop. There's a few people in history that names you need to know. He's likely going to be on the test as well. John Winthrop. He is could rightly be called the founder of America, just like George Washington is called the father of our nation. John Winthrop it could be called the founder of America. He was the leader who brought the group. Okay, we saw during the Great Migration of the 1630s, around 70,000 refugees left England. About 20,000 of those came to Massachusetts. Okay, so about 20,000 middle-class, hard-working, Bible-believing, holy living Puritans came to Massachusetts, led by John Winthrop, and his beliefs and his guidance and direction founded the way for the Massachusetts Bay Colony and led the direction for our country. He believed that he had a calling from God to lead the new religious experiment. Okay? He believed, once again, he had a calling from God. Even though he was a successful attorney and owned a manor lord in England, okay, his abilities led to success. Governor Winthrop said, "We shall be as a city upon a hill." Their idea was to build a society that the rest of the world could look up at and as what exemplifies what you're doing right. A moral, hardworking, upright society. They're the people who are doing it right. We want to be like them. That's what they were trying to build. The Puritans and the Puritan Bay colonists believed that they had a covenant with God, an agreement to build a holy society that would be a model for mankind. Now, let me ask you a question. Is America the greatest country in the world? The answer is yes. That's an objective answer. I didn't say, okay, it is most powerful, has the most might militarily of any country ever in world history. It also has the most economic power in world history. It is also done, as some may argue, and some could debate this, but I think many would agree, as much good or the most good compared with the only competitor perhaps here, the British Empire, in world history. All right? When we look at the American civilization, are we not a city or a country upon a hill? The rest of the world does look up to us. Okay? They had an agreement to build a holy society that would be a model for mankind. Did they accomplish that? Yes, they did. I'm not going to ask the question you're all expecting me to ask. You're asking it in your head. John Winthrop and all of the early colonists had a great fear. That great fear was something called democracy. Some of you are surprised that you thought democracy was a good thing. You've probably seen, there's a video that you're going to be watching in chapter 3 about that you're watching here about a founding of America. Democracy was not viewed as a good thing by our founders. They did not like that. I'm going to quote here out of the book. Governor Winthrop feared and distrusted the commons as the meaner sort and thought that democracy was the meanest and worst of all forms of government. If the people be governors, asked one Puritan clergyman, who shall be governed? Let me refer to the questions here. Question number 8. What did John Winthrop believe about a calling? He believed he had a calling to lead the new religious experiment. Number 9. Governor Winthrop gave a quote about the beacon of humanity. He believed they should be a city upon a hill. Okay, and number 10, the Puritan Bay, number 9, so the Puritan Bay colonists believed that they had a covenant with God for what? That is to build a holy society that would be a model for all of mankind. On democracy, number 10, was the government a democracy? No, it was not a democracy. Winthrop distrusted and feared who? And the book says the commons and the meaner sort. What he's meaning there is the underclass of society. And that's a term that may come across as offensive. It's not meant meant as that. It's an actual definition. Okay, you might refer to them as the people who are bumps. Again, that's not a nice term. Let's use a different term. Let's use a term of those who are not interested in leading productive lives. Okay, they're not very ambitious. We could look at them in a lot of different ways, but you know the type of people I'm talking about in our society today. Often they're in and out of jail. They have troubles with substances. They have trouble with alcohol addictions. Okay, they have trouble holding down a job, working hard, showing up. They tend to have a lot of illegitimate children. Okay, this is the type of people I'm talking about. Okay, when I say type of people, again, I'm not trying to put them down. I'm simply referring to that in every culture there is some individuals who are not interested in leading a holy life or a productive life. That is who John Winthrop is referring to. He distrusted those the masses, as sometimes they would be referred to. Okay, and you're gonna hear a lot more about this. They did not want those people voting. They wanted only Puritans, the visible saints. Again, what is a visible saint? A visible saint is a person who felt the stirring of grace in their souls and could demonstrate its presence to fellow Puritans. Okay? They only wanted those to be the voters. To get admission to church membership, which is how you voted, you had to, there was a public interrogations of persons claiming to have experienced conversion. If you wanted to say you're a visible member, you were publicly interrogated to prove it. This is a fascinating concept, and one that you should toss in the back of your heads. Compared to the easy believism or just quick accept God of our culture today, they had a belief that you wanted to say you are a visible saint, or you are a Christian in today's terminology, or you're a Christ follower. You had to prove it. Okay, public interrogation. I believe there's probably witnesses and people called asking for proof. Other notes here. We're gonna continue on here. Other notes. And we're gonna talk more, and you're gonna hear about the Protestant word ethic in a minute. But I just want to. There's two quick things here that I thought were rather humorous. In New Haven, a young married couple was fined 20 shillings for the crime of kissing in public. Some of you, if you're college students, you better prepare your 20 shillings, I'm guessing. Or at least, if you're living on campus, you know the rules. I went to a Bible college too. Forgive my humor, that's really not funny. I know it's not, but still. One other thing here is clergymen were barred from holding political office. Now I mentioned how important it was for the people to have the holy lives in the Puritans. But the Puritans also believed they wanted their clergy to focus on godliness and preaching the gospel, and not be involved in political matters. And this is an interesting concept that I think that it is a little bit different than today. Often you hear we expect the clergy or the preachers to be involved in politics, and the Puritans had a different idea. They believed that the ministers should be focused on saving souls, and that the clergy could vote. That the members could vote, but they didn't want the clergies holding office. They didn't want your pastor to be your politician. They didn't believe that you could do both very well. And that is something that came directly from the Church of England, where they had problems with your bishop holding political office and your theological leader and your political leader is one and the same. And, hey, is it political expedient? Okay, well, I'm going to sacrifice this theology. Is it good politically expedient here? Okay, well, then we're going to allow this person who shows poor behavior into the church. That is why they did not allow that. But they also wanted their clergy and their ministers to focus solely on preaching and teaching and sharing God's word. Thank you for this part. I will have another lecture on chapter 3. Thank you.